When we learn how to work with asynchronous operations with NGRX, the effects or the persistent data library, the next challenge that I believe they are going to run into is how to handle relational data within their application. So if every distinct entity goes into its own reducer, what happens when you have related modules, such as you have for example, a user that has projects? How do you stitch them together so that in your application the user can then view and see, oh, here's the user and here are the projects? The answer to that is that by computed data with selectors. The selector can take any number of parameters as well as other selectors as parameters into that selector. They are composable basically. What we're going to do now, we're going to start an example of allowing or returning the current selected project based on the entities and the current selected ID. From there, then we will expand on this. So I will show you how to compute users and projects and combine them as we use in the application. So let's create our first selector, and they're just going to be called the select current project ID. So we can call the create selector function, and we take two parameters, the first being the select project state and the second one being the get selected project ID. Now we go to the component and we're going to cut the entity from here, and I'll explain later, but we're going to have it in this top reducer, and we import the project. So what we're going to do now is to get started and get the reducers, get the selector for the current project. So in order to get the selector from the current project, we create another selector and we select the current project state entities, current entities. Is showing red, but it means that there might be a typo, and there you go, that's the typo. Then entities, I think I'm doing it wrong. So yes, we need to select the current project ID, select current project ID, and then so if you, for example, press control click, left click, you will see that the create selector has so many different options that you can use to create a selector. So in our case, we can create a third parameter, and that's going to be a function, and that function is gonna have two parameters, and one is the project entities and the second one being the project ID, and this is going to return the project entities, but the index is going to be the project ID, so we're going to get the entity for that project ID. But here's when the empty object comes in. So we're going to use the project ID to verify. If it's not project ID, we're going to return an empty project. Still needs to verify this is not correct, and this is because sometimes it's too late. But yes, I think that the problem here is given that the fact entities, Oscar, entities, yeah, and the problem is the order in which we define the variable, so we can't use it before it's been declared, so we need to put that down. So we paste it here. The other thing we need to make sure is that we have the selected current project in our barrel, so it's available for other components, feature components, to use it. So now we can see that we can jump into our component and start using the new selector. So we transform the current project into an observable type project. Then we need to go into our template to make sure that we are using that new observable and with the async pipe. So we add the async pipe, and going back to our we save this. Going back to our component, we need to also return the project, the current project in our constructor. So we're going to get this dot project, current project, equal this dot store.pipe, select, and then we use the new selector, select current project. So now we're going to fix the methods. So the first one is this: reset the current project. We're going to dispatch the new action of select project, and it's going to have a null as a parameter. I believe there is a problem with the constructor of the select project action, because it needs a constructor. It doesn't have, you can see it doesn't have a constructor, and we copy the constructor from the other method and we select it's a one single project, not an array. So now we jump back to save and jump back to fix the next method. In this case, we're going to perform the same dispatch of the action. This is total dispatch, and we're going to say new select project, and in this case we're going to send the project.id. Right, we save the changes, and as you can see in the application, every time we select the project we see the details. We open the developer tools, and the developer tools in Redux tools, we can see that every time we select a project, the action, the select action is being dispatched, and we select again, you can see it's dispatched again. So yeah, so as a we're going to go to the bottom of the top reducer. As a last exercise, we're going to create a composable selector. Select all customers and projects equal to create selector. We have we're going to use three parameters this time. We select all customers, select all projects, and now a function that accepts the customers and the projects, and that's going to return a new object. And from the customers we map into a single customer, and that is going to return a object.assign that allows us to create a new custom object as a result of the filtering the projects by customer ID and project. So we spread the customer and we add a property called projects, where we're gonna assign the filter projects based on the project.customer ID equal to the customer dot, and that's how we create a composable selector.